Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Sun and Moon Movesets video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about the new Pokemon Tapu Bulu. So let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Tapu Bulu is a new Grass Fairy type Pokemon and one of the 4 Guardian Deity Pokemon of the Alolan region. It has access to 2 abilities, the first of which being the Grassy Surge ability, which is a new ability introduced into Pokemon Sun and Moon, which upon entry on the battlefield will set up a grassy terrain. Now for those of you that are unfamiliar with grassy terrain, what it does is it basically gives a pseudo leftovers to all the Pokemon that are currently on the ground, restoring a 16th of their HP at the end of every turn, and it also boosts the power of grass type moves by 50%. Furthermore, it also reduces the damage of Bulldoze, Earthquake, and Magnitude by half, essentially making this Pokemon a pretty great switch-in to some ground-type attacks that your opponent might have. But its second ability, which is this Pokemon's hidden ability, is known as Telepathy, which prevents it from taking damage from its teammates' attacks in a double battle. As for its stats, this Pokemon has a base 70 HP stat, which isn't terribly high in itself, but it does have a really great 115 physical defense and 95 special defense, allowing Tapu Bulu, especially with access to the recovery from the grassy terrain as a result of his Grassy Surge ability, to take a fair amount of hits in the battle and recover that off fairly easily. As for its offenses though, this Pokemon has a base 130 physical attack, which is absolutely phenomenal and allows it to especially deal a ton of damage with its grass type stab moves. Furthermore, its special attack is also pretty great, being base 85, which is definitely usable if you do want to run a specially offensive boosting set for this Pokemon. Finally, its speed stat is probably its weakest area, being only base 75 speed, so this Pokemon will be a little bit on the slow side, but again, it is in a range where this Pokemon is capable of running an effective Choice Scarf set if you would like to allow it to bolster its speed even further and be an even greater threat on the battlefield. But with that, let's take a look at the first moveset that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to begin by giving Tapu Bulu a Jolly Nature to boost its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to boost its physical attack but lower its special attack, and then running an EV spread of 252 physical attack EVs, 4 special defense EVs, and 252 speed EVs to give it its maximum physical attack and speed possible. As for the item, we're either going to go with a Choice Band to boost the power of all of your physical attacks, a Choice Scarf to boost your speed and make you quite a bit faster, a Life Orb to also boost the damage of your moves, but allow you to use them freely, unlike on a choiced set where you're locked into a move at the cost of losing 10% of your health every time you damage an opponent, an Expert Belt to boost the power of super effective attacks, an Assault Vest to boost your special defense even further, a Meadow Plate to allow this Pokemon to boost its grass-type moves even further, in addition to obviously the grassy terrain that's on the battlefield that's already increasing their power, Leftovers to allow this Pokemon to recover HP at the end of every turn, which also, when used in combination with grassy terrain, nets you quite a bit of recovery. A Lumberry to allow this Pokemon to have a one-time status immunity as a result of using the berry to basically activate when your opponent tries to status you. Or a Z Crystal to allow this Pokemon to have a one-time use Z move that corresponds to a type of attack on the set for a one-time super powerful move. But for the moves on this set, the first one that we're going to go with is either going to be Wood Hammer to give you just a massively powerful physical grass type move that has a ton of recoil, or Substitute as a way to get behind a protective barrier to shield you from attacks and statuses while you attempt to damage your opponents. In addition to this, we're also going to potentially run a secondary grass stab, or just your main grass stab if you go with Substitute, in the form of Horn Leech, which is an excellent grass step attack that not only damages your opponents on the physical side, but also recovers some health back. Then, for your third move, we're going to run some additional coverage in the form of either Mega Horn or Stone Edge, and then again in the last move slot, running Stone Edge as an option here, or Superpower to include as well, and lastly, giving this Pokemon the option of running Sunny Day, which when used in combination with Furium Z as your Z Crystal, will allow it to boost its speed by 1 stage, thus making it very fast and very powerful with the attack investment and just its natural physical attacking offenses. But overall, this set can cover a lot of bases and works extremely well, especially if you use teammates that are able to basically handle the things that your opponent has on its team that would be resisting your Wood Hammers or Horn Leeches, because with the grassy terrain, your grass moves do a ridiculous amount of damage. But additionally, there is a more bulky way to run this moveset. So in this variation, we're going to begin by giving Tapu Bulu an adamant nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack, and then run a little bit of a bulkier EV spread, giving it 156 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and 100 speed EVs, which still makes it as powerful as it can possibly be, with some added bulk and enough speed to outspeed defensive Rotom Wash, which is really important for this guy because he obviously doesn't want to get burned, and in outspeeding them, you're able to actually just fire off a really powerful grass type move to take it out before it could either Volt Switch or hit you with another attack. Now, there obviously is another way that you could run this with more speed or less speed depending on how fast you want to make this Pokemon and how bulky you want to use, but I think this is a pretty great benchmark to use for this Pokemon if you were to run it a little bit more bulky on an offensive set. Again, though, including the same move options as the more speedy variant that you saw previously. As for this next moveset, we're going to be running a more boosting variant of Tapu Bulu. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature to boost its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to boost its physical attack but lower its special attack, and then run the same EV spread as the first set with 252 physical attack EVs, 4 special defense EVs, and 252 speed EVs. As for the item, this time we're either going to include a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of your attacks at the cost of losing 10% of your health every time you damage your opponent, an Expert Belt to boost the power of super effective moves, Leftovers to allow you to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn, coupled with your Grassy Terrain recovery as well, a Lumberry to also make it so that you have a one-time use of status immunity by the berry activating when your opponent tries to status you, or again a Z Crystal to correspond with one type of attack on the set to give you a one-time use of a super powerful move of that type. But for the moves, since this is a more boosting variant, we're going to start off by giving Tapu Bulu either the Swords Dance move to boost your physical attack by 2 stages, or the Bulk Up move to increase your physical attack by 1 stage and your physical defense by 1 stage every time you go for it. One obviously being the more offensive variant, the other being a little bit more of a bulky variant in Bulk Up. But again, we're going to go with one grass type stab attack in the form of Wood Hammer or Horn Leech. Wood Hammer obviously being the stronger option, but it does have quite a bit of recoil, whereas Horn Leech can be very useful with a boosted attacking stat because it essentially allows this Pokemon to heal even more HP back when it goes for Horn Leech as a result of its boosted stats. But again, then we're going to include Mega Horn and Stone Edge for coverage, and then in the last move slot, give either Stone Edge or Super Power the option here to again give this Pokemon some additional type coverage and being able to deal with a number of things that could switch into it and hit them for either neutral or super effective damage. But again, like before, there is also another way that you can run this moveset if you would like to run a little bit more of a bulky variant, more dedicated towards using the Bulk Up move. So for this variation, we're going to seek to maximize this Pokemon's special defense by first giving it a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but lower its special attack, and then run an EV spread of 232 HP EVs, 252 special defense EVs, and then putting 24 EVs into this Pokemon's speed to give it almost its max special defense possible and enough speed to outspeed a more defensive Heatran that you might be matched up against. But for the item on this variant, Leftovers and Lumberry are going to be the only ones that we use, basically to try to maximize this Pokemon's survivability. But for the moves, like I said before, Bulk Up is going to be your boosting move of choice on the set, which, coupled with your special defense investment in your nature and your EV spread, will turn this Pokemon into a very bulky physical attacker as a result of also the physical attack boost that you get from Bulk Up and the physical defense boosts. And then again, we're going to make use of Horn Leech to be your main stab grass type move, which is essential for giving this set some survivability, and then making use of Mega Horn, Stone Edge, or Super Power as your coverage options in your last 2 move slots to allow this Pokemon to hit more things super effectively or for neutral damage while it sets up with its boosted physical attack and physical defense. On the more special side of things, though, we could run a very similar boosting set for Tapu Bulu that makes use of special attacks. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Bold Nature to increase its physical defense but lower its physical attack, and then run an EV spread of 232 HP EVs, 252 defense EVs, and 24 speed EVs to again give it its maximum bulk possible, this time on the physical side, and then enough speed to outspeed a defensive Heatran. As for the item, this time we're going to go with Leftovers to allow this Pokemon to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn, or make use of the Grassy Seed item, which upon entry on the battlefield, because you'll be activating the Grassy Surge and Grassy Terrain, will boost this Pokemon's physical defense by 1 stage, thus making it even more physically bulky, and even having an easier time to make use of a specially boosting set this time being used in the form of having Calm Mind to boost our special attack and our special defense by 1 stage, thus making this Pokemon, again, very bulky from both the physical and special side and allow it to take hits very easily, while also boosting its special attack. And to make use of this on this set, we're going to be making use of Giga Drain to be your main stab special Grass-type move that's going to be helping provide the much-needed recovery for the survivability on this set, and also just be a nice, powerful Grass-type move. Then we're going to run Dazzling Gleam to be your main stab Fairy-type attack on the set, and then for the last move slot, either running Substitute to create a Sub-Calm Mind variant of this Pokemon, which is a little bit easier to do actually due to the grassy terrain boosting your HP at the end of every turn, which is normally what Leftovers would be for, which is actually pretty cool for this guy, but also potentially running Focus Blast as an additional coverage option to give you a powerful fighting-type attack to make use of. Now, in addition to running powerful offensive sets, this Pokemon also has quite a deep support move pool. So for this set, we're going to seek to start to utilize that a little bit by first giving it a Jolly Nature to boost its speed but lower its special attack, and then make use of a physically offensive EV spread like on the first couple sets with 252 physical attack EVs, 4 special defense EVs, and 252 speed EVs to give it its maximum physical attack and speed possible, and then running Leftovers or a Lumberry as your item. As to the moves on this set though, the first thing that we're going to make use of is going to be Leech Seed, which is going to obviously be a move that is going to slowly drain away your opponent's HP and then give you that HP back that it's draining away, thus increasing this Pokemon's survivability quite a bit, and also slowly whittling down your opponent's HP in the process. Then, for your main stab Grass move on this set, we're going to make use of either Wood Hammer or Horn Leech, both of which being excellent options here, because the Leech Seed recovery is going to help deal with the recoil that you take from Wood Hammer, while Horn Leech will just allow you to recover an absurd amount of HP at the end of every turn if you are basically using this in combination with Leech Seed as well, making this Pokemon very, very difficult to kill. But for a coverage option, we're going to either run Stone Edge or Superpower here to give this Pokemon a reliable way to deal with a number of attackers that would want to switch into it. And then for the last move slot, running quite a few options, the first being Substitute to allow this Pokemon to get behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks and statuses, and also work in combination with Leech Seed to allow this Pokemon to essentially recover off all the health it loses from Substitute with the Leech Seed recovery, and then just keep doing this over and over again to make your opponent's job in taking this guy down very difficult. We can also run Protect as a way to protect on a turn that your opponent is already Leech Seeded to get some more recovery back, and this is also a priority move that will obviously fail used in succession, so do keep that in mind, though it is a little bit of a nicer move to have and can also help for scouting things if your opponent is a choiced Pokemon. We could also run Taunt here to allow this Pokemon to prevent its opponents from using any non-attacking moves, which can be essential when using this Pokemon versus a more bulky wall that's going to try to recover the health they're losing from Leech Seed or any of your other attacks. Or we could run Nature's Madness or Megahorn as additional coverage options, Megahorn obviously being really great versus the Grass-type Pokemon that are immune to Leech Seed, whereas Nature's Madness is just a fantastic way to have your opponent's HP stat, thus making it easier for you to take it out on the following turn, or make it easier for a teammate that you might have on your team to deal with that Pokemon that has its HP halved later in the battle. But overall, this set is just incredibly difficult to deal with, especially if you can get the Leech Seed recovery going, because of the additional recovery you might be getting from Leftovers and the grassy terrain, and also the fact that Leech Seed just tends to cause a lot of switches, which is a really awesome thing about this move. It's probably one of my favorite moves in the game, to be completely honest. But again, there is a more bulky variant if you would like to run this Pokemon a little bit more defensive when making use of Leech Seed. So in this variant, we're going to begin by giving it either an Impish Nature to increase its physical defense but lower its special attack, or a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but lower its special attack, and then making use of an EV spread of 232 HP EVs, 252 physical defense or special defense EVs, depending upon if you want to run this Pokemon physically defensive or specially defensive, and then again putting 24 EVs into its speed stat to allow this Pokemon to outspeed a defensive Heatran set that has no speed investment. But overall, this variant allows this Pokemon to switch into a variety of attackers a lot easier, though it isn't quite as fast. So do keep that in mind, though the added defenses that you're getting out of this Pokemon could effectively turn it into a really great physical or special wall that you could use for your team that also just has the ridiculous power that Tapu Bulu normally has behind it due to its boosted grass moves as a result of the grassy terrain, and its ability to just force a lot of switches as mentioned before through the use of Leech Seed. Finally, for this last moveset, we're going to be utilizing Tapu Bulu in a more support role on the battlefield, which interestingly enough is something that it can do extremely well, despite the fact that it is typically just seen as a really powerful attacker or subseeder to an extent. So for this set, we're going to begin by giving it an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack, and then run an EV spread of 156 HP EVs, 252 physical attack EVs, and 100 speed EVs to give it that EV spread that we used before, allowing it to maximize its physical attack, giving it some added bulk, and also giving it enough speed to outspeed defensive Rotom Wash. But for the item on the set, we're going to be making use of Light Clay to allow this Pokemon to extend the screens that it's going to be using from 5 turns to 8. And this is particularly interesting in and of itself because normally dual screeners have to really rely on the fact that they're either going to use Light Clay or Leftovers as the item. But because of the Grassy Surge ability, putting a grassy terrain on the battlefield, essentially giving you Leftovers already, you are essentially having access to both items, which is something that no other Pokemon can claim that they can do. So again, Reflect and Light Screen will be the first 2 moves on the set to boost your team's physical and special defense, and then making use of Horn Leech as a way to allow this Pokemon to get some extra recovery when it damages its opponent with a powerful Grass type move that additionally will be boosted by the grassy terrain that you're putting on the battlefield. As for the last move, we're either going to run Nature's Madness to give you an easy way to have your opponent's HP, Stone Edge to give you some great additional type coverage, as well as also running Zen Headbutt to also give you some additional type coverage, which for this set is being included mainly because we're running a little bit more of a support role, so we're going to want some additional type coverage that's going to be particularly useful against things that are going to be wanting to switch in to Tapu Bulu, namely poison types, which Zen Headbutt can hit super effectively. But overall, this set is one that I think is going to be potentially a really surprise but awesome set to run on this Pokemon because of how effectively it can be a dual screener despite it not really being seen as a Pokemon to fill that role on the battlefield. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video on Tapu Bulu. So thank you all for watching, and as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.